that wants to tame me. You can't catch me on the run, cause I'm gone, yeah. I blaze trails, set fire to what's behind me. No, I'm never looking back, I'm on the run. I could only ever be what I'm made to be. It feels good when I'm living on the edge. Watch me now, roll like thunder, gonna shake the ground. Can't stop me now, I don't give up and I won't back down. I'm a force of nature, can't be contained. I got lightning running all through my veins. Watch me now, watch me now.
Hi, I'm Wyatt Milam. I'm from Canova, West Virginia. When I'm back home, you'll find me at my local Par-Mar store.
We have that gold and blue pride at your local Par-Mar store. We are coming to your neighborhood soon. West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, we have you covered. Download the Par-Mar app and sign up for the Par-Mar Rewards Card. Food, gas, groceries, and more, we are gold and blue proud, and we are Par-Mar stores.
If there's not a Par-Mar store near you now, there will be soon.
Law offices of Mark Plants and Kevin Davis. First line of defense. Buzzballs, ready-to-drink cocktails. #1 single-serve premix brand in the U.S. Buzzballs, have a ball. And yes, have a ball and welcome. It's Saturday, September 30th to the WolfMan's Call. We got just a special edition. All I want to do was to come on here and say, let's go Mountaineers. It's a big game against the TCU Horned Frogs starting at 8 o'clock Eastern time tonight. 7 o'clock down there, man. Hey, big game for the Mountaineers. This is really where we're going to find out where this team is at. Looks like Garrett Green may be starting. So good news for Gigi, getting ready to get back in it, get it going again. And also for this defense. Is this defense the real deal? Is this defense the defense that's been playing the last couple of games and showing that they are a Power 5 real deal defense? That third down, man, first in the Big 12 and sixth in the country getting off the field. That's a huge, huge difference. But all I really want to do was get on here was to go ahead and do an excerpt of Steven Johnson from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram that he did the show on Thursday, and he just really broke down the TCU Horned Frogs. And I love beat writers, man. You know why I love beat writers? Is because they know once you write it down, and they just know the teams inside and out. They do the hardest work. They're there, beat writers, and again, Steven Johnson, he knows this team. I turned around just the audio, not the video, easier to do. So go ahead for the next 25, 26 minutes. Listen to Steven M. Johnson, the Fort Worth TCU, and the beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Enjoy. All right, Daryl Prue. Man, I tell you, he just laid it straight out. That's what I love about the show is the guys that I bring on, they just tell you the truth no matter what. It's not the company line. It's not the idiot line. It's right there in the middle where the truth usually is just about there. As much as we try to see it and know it and to be fair. All right, everybody. Well, listen, I got a great guest right now, and he's from the Fort Worth, the Star-Telegram, and he's a TCU beat writer. Steven Johnson, he's award-winning. Let's welcome him to the show, WolfMan's Call. Hello, Steven. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing all right, man. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Hey, how hot is it down there in Texas, Fort Worth?
Technically, it's cooling off. I think it's in the 90s right now, but man, it's hot down here, even as we get closer to October.
Yeah, there's no doubt. When does it actually cool down to where it's pleasant? Like, because the game's at 8 o'clock at night. How hot will it be there?
It should be fine at 8 o'clock tonight. 8 o'clock on Saturday night. It'll probably be maybe in the 80s, maybe high 70s. That'll be perfect football weather So West Virginia, temperature probably won't be an issue for West Virginia this weekend, I don't imagine.
Okay, very good. Well, okay, so I say you're award-winning reporter, you're TCU beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. You've been around to some other places, but you just recently started hanging out and doing the full TCU thing, right?
Yep, I got here in July before last season. So Sonny Dykes' first year was my first year, and obviously, I guess I got perfect timing, man. I got here at the right time. Obviously, TCU was not only great, but if you heard some of the stories about Gary Patterson, the media access, that could probably be another topic for another day. So I came here at the right time. They're pretty good, and actually they're pretty open with their program as well, too.
All right, well, that's fantastic. You know, that's true about Gary Patterson because I've heard some stories. Let me ask you this. How good of a singer and guitar player was he? How good?
Not sure. I honestly haven't heard much about it. Like I said, I got here after he left, and I think so much of they were very appreciative, obviously, what Gary did. Gary helped put that school on the map, not only athletically, but also academically. We know what sports can do for the academic side of your program. But you could tell they were ready for a change. And obviously, it's kind of, you see, it's worked out pretty well. They had a great season last year, and they're off to a pretty good start this year.
All right, very good. All right, so listen, you can follow Stephen M. Johnson on Twitter at Stephen M. Johnson. He had a great article yesterday about why this offense of TCU is not satisfied. And go ahead if you want to just start out. Let's start out with the offense. And you're looking at this, and you're seeing 500 yards per game, 38 points scored, per game. The defense, doing some good things as well. But offensively, let's start focusing on that. Stephen, tell me what you see there, how you think they've gotten better since, I don't know, I guess maybe Colorado because they lost it, but they still put up 42 points. Mm-hmm. They obviously they're still scoring a lot of points.
So obviously, if you look at TCU's numbers, for the most part, they're top 25 in almost every major offensive metric. I think they're number 24 in scoring offense, number 11 in rushing offense, number 11 in total offense, And I think they're top 20 in rushing. So moving the ball hasn't been an issue for this team. And obviously, like I said, you see 38 points per game. But the reason they're not satisfied is because they feel like they should be averaging close to 50 points per game. Mm-hmm. And the one area I think this offense has struggled in, if I'm West Virginia in particular, it's the one area I'm trying to circle in where I want to kind of stand up and bow up is in the red zone. That's where TCU goes from being among the country's elite to, I want to say they're 107 in scoring opportunities in the red zone, where they're only scoring, I think, less than 75% of the time. So red zone execution is, I think, the only thing that's kind of holding this offense back from going from good to great. They had a couple turnovers. The reason they lost to Colorado was because they threw 2 interceptions in the end zone. Now, you can't do that against a good team, and you saw what Colorado was able to do. They had another one against Houston, had another red zone turnover against Nickel. So I think the biggest thing that they saw last week against SMU was the fact they had a clean game with no turnovers, but even then they still left some points on the board. So right now they're an offense that honestly they have a new starter at quarterback, new starter at running back, bunch of new starters all over the board, and a new offensive coordinator. And they're still putting up good numbers, yet they still feel like there's still more to go. So they're hoping that they can take another step. They're going up against a pretty good defense on Saturday.
Yeah, let's talk about Chandler Morris. I mean, 4 games he's played. He's 98 and 142. He does have 3 picks, but he's also got 9 TDs, averaging around 280 yards per game. What's his story?
I think so. A lot of people may forget, but he was the guy that was supposed to be the starter last year. Then the first game against Colorado, I believe it's the third quarter, it's just a routine scramble, sprains his knee. Opens the door for Max Duggan, and we know what type of year he had. Yeah. So he comes back, and now it's his turn to run the offense. But obviously, like I was saying, he has a bunch of new people around him. He has a bunch of new receivers, a bunch of new offensive linemen, new offensive coordinator. So there's been some growing pains, I think, initially, especially in that Colorado game where he does some good things, but he does have those costly turnovers. But I think each week you're seeing him get a little bit better, a little bit steadier. He's seen the field a little bit better. And I think the thing that's kind of been unlocked the last couple games is his ability to move the chains as a runner. He's not the power runner that Max is, but I think just as a scrambler, because he hits his top speed really quickly, I should say that. So if he touches the ball, he brings it down. He hits top gear pretty quickly, man. And I think they're kind of leaning into that a little bit more. And I think he's a guy, he's getting more rhythm. He's using his feet. I think he's closer to being back 100% mentally. Physically, he's there, but he kind of talked about how he didn't trust his knee in that first game against Colorado. He didn't trust it to kind of take off and pick up some of those first downs. So now he's starting to evolve, and I think right now, I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the Big 12, and he's still, like the rest of the offense, he still has some room for improvement. But I think right now they've been pleased by what they've had, and I think he's kind of getting more mature and he's getting more steady. No turnovers last week, which is big for them.
Yeah, certainly big for that. No turnovers. You get the goose egg. Talk about Kendall Briles. And I remember I was broadcasting for WVU back when his dad was at Baylor and Kendall was there. And now he's been at 4 different spots, and it seems to me like he's really matured and he's putting up big numbers. You can't deny.
Yeah, obviously, his track record speaks for itself. The hire was a bit controversial when he got here. Obviously, coming from Baylor, and obviously they had that scandal back there. So he's kind of fighting this, I don't want to say an unwinnable battle. There's always going to be a segment of the TCU fan base that I don't know if it ever is going to fully warm up to him. But I think overall, he had big shoes to fill with Gary Riley going to Clemson and all the starters gone off to the NFL at graduation. And I think, like I said, so far he's been doing a good job. I think the only really real complaint you can really have about the offense is sometimes they get a little too cute, and I think that also leads to some of their struggles in the red zone. There was one possession last week against SMU where, you get inside the 20-yard line. Instead of running right at them, you run a sweep with Savion Williams, and maybe you lose a yard or two. Now you're behind the chains, and then boom, you got to settle for a field goal. So sometimes I think he's still learning his personnel, just like they're learning him and learning the scheme. But overall, you have to be encouraged, man, when you're averaging close to 40 points and over 500 yards per game in this portion of the season.
It's funny because I wouldn't have thought, again, I think if I go back to Art Briles, and he always ran the ball, but he put up great receiving numbers and throwing numbers as well. His team, I should say that about. And here, there's no doubt when you have, Imani Bailey and Chandler Morris at 6 yards per rush, you guys at TCU is committed to running the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Imani Bailey is currently leading the Big 12 in rushing right now. And this was a guy last year. This was how special TCU's backfield was. They had 2 NFL backs in Kendre Miller and Amari DiMercato.
Yeah.
Then they had Bailey last year, who led the conference in rushing yards per carry. Obviously, it was a small sample size. So now it's his running back room. It's his time now. He sees the opportunity. 3 100-yard rushing game in the first 4 games of the season, man. He runs hard. He's only 5'9", man, but he's a load to bring down. He's explosive when and once he sees the hole, he hits it. That's my favorite thing about him as a running back. There's no tiptoeing. Once he sees that gap, he's going through at full speed. I think TCU's offensive line, it's another area. They're not as great as last year. There have been some growing pains and new starters, but overall, they've been kind of moving people out of the way, establishing a run game. So I think right now, and like you kind of said, the Browns offense, people see the vertical shots and all the points, and they think it's a high-flying offense. But everything they kind of do is predicated off of having a strong run game, the RPOs and all that nature. But TCU still has one of the top rushing attacks in the country. I think Imani Bailey could be kind of one of the keys to the game on Saturday.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us about your tight end. I know he's pretty strong, and West Virginia has a good tight end. But how much is the tight end involved in the game?
He is definitely involved a lot in the red zone and on third downs. I think they're still trying to find ways to get him the ball even more. It's a big target, 6'6", 250. Obviously leads the team in touchdown catches, and he's going to be Chandler Morris's favorite red zone target. I think he could be a guy that could see his draft stock kind of go up just off his measurables and things of that nature. With him, you just want to see him continue to play with his frame, play like you're 6'6", and that means high pointing the ball, being a little bit more physical as a blocker. But Jared Wiley, he's on pace to have a career year, man, and he's enjoying a lot of success in Kendall Briles' offense.
Yeah, looking at this film, I thought he stood out some for sure. There's some really nice things. Okay, so when you look at this, let me ask you this point. How much will they move the pocket with Chandler Morris? Will just be out straight drop back, or will you see them attack the perimeter, roll it out a little bit, and do things like that?
I think if they attack the perimeter, it'll be more so when Chandler is improvising. I don't think the play action bootlegs and things of that nature haven't been a big part of the offense so far, but obviously they're still installing new stuff every week. I don't think they put in the full offense. But I think what you will see, they will try to attack the perimeter of the West Virginia defense in different ways. They'll try to get some of their sweeps going, the jet sweeps, some tosses and things of that nature. But in terms of the passing game, it's pretty much drop backs, whether it's going to be a quick screen pass or a three-step drop. So yeah, I think it'll be a little bit more traditional in that sense. But TCU is going to go extremely fast with the pace of the offense.
I see that, J.P. Richardson is the receiver that's leading, and he doesn't have any touchdowns, but he's leading in receptions along with Jared Wiley. What's this receiving core like? Because West Virginia has a receiving core that's right now kind of not doing much. And I think you guys are in this kind of same situation with a whole bunch of new receivers, but you're making impressions and they're making catches.
Well, the thing about TCU is they've been rotating so many guys that I think they're starting to get to the point where they're finally starting to finalize on those. Maybe there's 6 or 7 top guys. So I think that there's plenty of talent. I like TCU's receivers. I just think they need to, the coaching staff is still trying to figure out the hierarchy. They've had a couple guys get dinged up. As for J.P. Richardson, he's an Oklahoma State transfer last year. I believe he was top 2 in touchdown catches for them. So he's a really good slot receiver. He's been dealing with some injuries, but he's one of those guys where 9 times out of 10, the ball hits his hand, he's going to catch it. He has good speed. He can stretch the field from the slot, and he's another guy that they'll be trying to be creative with in the ways they get in the ball. He might get it on the sweep. He might get it on the screen or something of that nature. So right now, I would probably say he's TCU's best receivers, and the numbers aren't impressive. But the thing is, man, TCU has had, I want to say almost every game this year, 8 or 9 guys have caught a pass every single game, man. So that's kind of one of the reasons you're not seeing those big, 100-yard receiving games like we were seeing from Quentin Johnston last year.
If TCU is going to try to stretch it out of play, what receiver is going to do that? Is it going to be Richardson?
I think they wanted to be Jalen Robinson. Robinson was a UCF transfer, went to Ole Miss for a year as well, too. When he's at his peak, man, he's probably the fastest guy on the team. So I think right now, honestly, the vertical passing game is probably the one thing TCU hasn't been great on. They're really great, obviously, kind of in that intermediate range, but they're still working on hitting some of those deep balls. So Jalen Robinson, he hit a long one to Warren Thompson, but if you kind of see it, they haven't hit those, 40-plus, 50-plus yard bombs just yet. So that's honestly another area of the offense they want to improve in. But the guy that I think they will look at to stretch the field will probably be Jalen Robinson.
Fast, I bet. All right, so let's go ahead and move it on over to the defense. If you can, Stephen, describe this defense for us, because it's not the 3-3 stack that West Virginia used a decade ago. This is a different 3-3-5 with 3 safeties, a little bit like Iowa State does a little bit, but it's different still. It's their own knack. And go ahead and break it down for me if you can.
Well, the 3-3-5, obviously, they keep their 3 linebackers on the field. They keep 3 safeties on the field, Mark Perry, Bud Clark, and Josh Foster. So, to me, it's a defense, the way TCU runs it, they like to do a lot of drop and aid in coverage and really making the quarterback have to fit balls into tight windows. Preston Stone from SMU really struggled with that. Sometimes, it's really good against the run. I'll say that. TCU is one of the top rushing defenses in the country. They've really done a good job of not letting teams kind of dictate and kind of establish their will on the ground. But with the passing game, at times, even though TCU leads the Power 5 teams in sacks, it's almost feast and famine a little bit. Whereas when they only rush 3, it's either they're getting back there and getting the sack, or he has a lot of time to throw, which can put a lot of stress on the secondary at times. But I think right now, when you look at what they did against Colorado to what they've been doing now, they've only allowed 2 offensive touchdowns in the last 3 games. And one of those touchdowns came in garbage time against SMU when the game was decided in the 4th quarter. So right now they're tackling better. They're getting after the quarterback a lot better. And you're seeing less coverage breakdowns in the secondary. So kind of like West Virginia, they're starting to play their best ball. This is the defense that brought back 7 to 8 starters from last year's team. So this is what they thought they were going to see in game 1. Obviously, it didn't happen like that. But they've gotten better, man. They're starting to get more confidence and starting to play like the defense that they expected to be.
Yeah, with all the sacks that you guys are experiencing, is it just the 3-man, or are they doing all kinds of blitzing and different direction and, not let the quarterback know?
They're starting to be a little bit more in with their blitzes and sending those extra guys, because the problem obviously you saw against Colorado was Shedeur just had too much time to throw. And I think TCU is starting to take more gambles the way they get at the quarterback. But truthfully, a lot of times they're still sending 3, but the way they'll use Jamoy Hodges, he's almost like he's half spy, half delay blitz. So let's say, for example, Garrett Green's able to go on Saturday. If he's dropping back and the initial 3-man rush doesn't get there, but he steps up in the pocket, he looks like he wants to break, Jamoy's going to start flying at him, and then he'll kind of come in as that 4th rusher and kind of come in for a sack or force it back into the defense. So it's about being more creative. Right now, honestly, when they only send 3 guys, Paul Oyewale has probably been the best guy getting to the pass rusher, getting to the quarterback, just in those situations. But honestly, you're seeing more blitzes. You're seeing them use kind of delayed linebacker blitzes. And really just if the 3-man cannot get to the quarterback, at least force him out of the pocket to where one of those roaming linebackers kind of come up and make him uncomfortable or get the sack themselves.
Is the secret of the defense the safety? Is it Perry that comes up that he can fill in that box against the run? And so you're only giving up 85 yards a game in the rush. That's huge.
Well, against the run, Mark is probably the key safety. He's the guy that kind of fills in, and he's kind of like that last resort. So he's a great box safety. Against the pass, it's more so of Josh Foster / Miller Bradford. They play what they call the nickel safety spot, which is normally kind of that 3rd corner. Some teams use. TC obviously use the 3rd safety. So they're the guy they have to help in the run game. They have to match up with the slots. They have to match up with the tight ends. There's a lot of stress on them. So I think that's probably the biggest position. That's the biggest key because if that position can be attacked in the passing game, that normally means that the middle of the field is open for the opposing offense to kind of do as they please.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know what I love about the defense, and I see what Perry, as the offensive line, when they count up when the center sits there and points out the mic and they figure out who's in the box, he's out of it. And they can't account for him. That's why I see him coming in as a free hitter a lot. And I think he really does his damage that way. I really think that's what a key to that defense. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, when it comes to he really thrives against those teams that like to get physical, that like to try to thrive in the box. He's definitely been one of the leaders of the defense as well. So he was actually a Colorado transfer. So just what he's been able to do, kind of bring that physicality to the back end of the defense. I would probably say he's the best tackler in the secondary for sure. So I expect him to be active, especially on Saturday, especially if West Virginia wants to play in the box.
I believe so, and I think they're going to. There's no doubt about it. They want to run. So when you look at this West Virginia team and you look at they like to run the ball. Even Garrett, I think Garrett is going to be able to play. That's the word right now. I have absolutely no 100%. I'm saying so. That's what I hear. So I think you're going to see both of them, Nico and Garrett, and they're both running quarterbacks. How do you think that they're going to attack the West Virginia offense, knowing that they like their tight end, Cole Taylor, the 6'7" tight end? They like 12 personnel a lot with 2 tight ends, Traylon Davis on the other side. But they also have not been able to get the receivers going, except for the first game, Devin Carter, he transferred from NC State. He had 6 receptions against Penn State, but no other receiver has really done much besides going against the Duquesne, which is FCS, right? So what do you think, how they're going to go ahead and attack this offense? They're going to try to shut the run down and make Garrett Green or the quarterback beat them in the air? What are they going to do?
Well, I think, that's probably going to be the plan. They want to play physical. TCU, for the most part, they're not really a team that switches up a lot from their alignments. I don't want to say there's going to be a bunch of them just putting 8 guys in the box every play and things like that. You're going to see mostly them in their base defense a lot, 3-3-5. They'll move guys over, but for the most part, you'll see 6 people in the box, and they'll trust their safeties who kind of move around all over the formation to kind of come and help out with the run game. So I think they're going to kind of buckle down on that, C.J. Donaldson and the quarterback run game, and force whoever's the quarterback, Garrett or Nico, to drop back and have to kind of dice up their secondary. Shedeur was able to do that. Other quarterbacks haven't been able to do that so far. Obviously, they're led by Josh Newton, an All-American corner, first team, All-Big 12 cornerback. They've gotten some good play at the other cornerback spot with Avery Helm. He's banged up at practice. I'm not sure if he'll go or not. But if not, they have Channing Canada, who was one of the top-rated junior college cornerbacks last year. So they like their depth at cornerback and the way they've been able to play. So I think right now, the best way to attack TCU is really if you can attack them vertically, especially in the seams. I think if you're going to play in front of them, that's kind of what they want. They've improved their tackling. Colorado was able to exploit it, but truthfully, I don't know if West Virginia has that same type of shifty, explosive receiver type like Colorado that can, force all those missed tackles. So I think TCU, the game plan is going to keep everything in front of them. And I think if they're able to do that, they feel like they have a good chance of keeping West Virginia, in check, say 20 points or less.
Yeah, I understand. That's what I would do. Honestly, that's certainly what I would do. All right, so flip it on to the other side, and how is the offense going to attack this West Virginia defense? That's, I think, they're number 5 in the nation on third downs, getting off the field, and they played well. Penn State, I didn't think they played that well. They gave up 322 yards in the secondary. I'm looking there at your quarterback, 69% completion percentage. He's just moving on. He's getting better and better each week. How do you think they're going to attack this defense, where the defensive line has stepped up the last 3 games against, especially Pitt and Texas Tech?
Well, they're going to try to establish the ground game as well, too. They want to get Imani Bailey going. They want him to kind of be the focal point of the offense and kind of get it going at first, too. But then I think with Chandler Morris, you're going to see TCU is number 3, I think, in pace right now. I know Texas Tech goes pretty fast as well, too, but obviously they had the injury last Saturday. So TCU wants to put stress on the defense by going fast, having West Virginia on his heels, and not being able to know how they're going to attack them. Are they going to hand it off to Imani? Are they going to run a screen? Are they going to take a vertical shot or something of that nature? So Kendall Bryce has been very creative. I think it's just about him being a bit more selective when he tries to reach into that bag, that creative bag, and create those openings and things of that nature. So I think, but TCU wants to stress the defense on the perimeter and right up the middle with the ground game. And TCU, I think TCU has confidence. There's a lot of respect for West Virginia. Like Sonny Dykes said himself, he doesn't see any weaknesses in the West Virginia defense. So they're expecting the challenge, but they also think if they can play their game, have another clean game, they'll be able to put up some points, enough points to get out with the victory. And I think third down is going to be key. TCU's top 50 in third down, so they're above average, but obviously West Virginia is elite in that category. We talked about the red zone issues earlier. So is TCU able to sustain those drives once they get past midfield, once they get to West Virginia 40-yard line? Or are they having to settle for these long field goals? Are they having to settle for punts in West Virginia territory? That, to me, is going to be the key to the game, because I think if West Virginia can make TCU settle for 3, and let's say TCU gets to the red zone 4 times in the first half, and they had to kick field goals 3 at a time. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's a situation where West Virginia can kind of hang around in the game, where honestly you're in the fourth quarter game. It's a 1-score game, and I think that's all you can really ask for if you're West Virginia.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, real quickly, tell us about Sandy. He's been there for 100 years. He's 30 years old, but he's an Australian punter, just like West Virginia has with Oliver Straw. And but Sandy, he's been really good.
Yeah, Sandy is actually older than me, so but he's a pretty good punter. They trust him. He's reliable. Special team as a whole has been pretty good to TCU. Griffin Kale, I think, is one of the better kickers in the Big 12. Usually reliable up to, I think, about 47, 48. He can hit at 50 if need be. In the return game, Major Everhart and JoJo Earl have shown flashes both as kick returner and punt returners. They're not as good as they were last year when they had Darius Davis, but Darius Davis was the best returner in the country. So special teams has been a plus for TCU, and it's normally an area they think can usually give them an edge against opponents.
All right. So here's the question now. How do you see this going down Saturday night, 8 o'clock, Stephen? You've watched a lot of TCU. You know a little bit about West Virginia. Can the defense and compete with this TCU offense?
I think West Virginia will probably do enough to keep this one a game late into the second half. But I just think it's hard for me to see. I question if West Virginia has the firepower to really challenge the TCU defensively. When I say challenge, I think West Virginia will score, not saying TCU will shut them out. But the teams that really have kind of decimated the TCU 3-5 defense have had explosive receivers, an explosive passing game, or really some more dynamic weapons. I don't know if West Virginia has that per se. So especially this year, and the way TCU's playing on defense, I kind of see TCU pulling it out 30-17, where they get a late touchdown, where it's kind of one of those games where West Virginia's kind of frustrating them. They have to settle for field goals, but they finally have kind of that put-away drive somewhere in the fourth quarter to kind of put the Mountaineers away.
All right. Well, You called it like you saw it, man. So I appreciate that. You told us how you do it, and you gave us some great insight to the Horned Frogs there. And I'll tell you what, there was a sub shop right on the outside of the stadium there, and I can't think of it. It was the main strip, and it was like most incredible. It was called Fatties or something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with it, but I'll have my eye out for it when I go out there on Saturday.
I'll tell you what, it was great, man. Anyways, all right, Stephen Johnson, thank you so much for your time. TCU Beat Writer. You can go ahead, and it's at Stephen M. Johnson _.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you, sir. All right, and that was Stephen Johnson for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, TCU beat writer. Again, I really like the beat writers because I think they get really heavily involved and they really know those teams and their teams. It's their job. It's their job, and obviously Stephen Johnson knows TCU very well. I do believe that he thinks that TCU is going to win the game and win it convincingly, 30-17. I think that's what he thinks. And he's got some good backing for it. The offense is really looking sharp, scoring that 38 points a game. Big question mark for me is defensively. Can this defense hold up to this TCU offense 500 yards a game? And that's really what it comes down to. So offensively, I think you can run the ball against this TCU defense. They are only giving up 85 yards per game. But you go back, Colorado didn't run the ball. They got some teams there that I think I'd say a little bit shaky there for running the ball. No doubt TCU can stop the run, but I don't think TCU has played against a running team like the Mountaineers yet. I don't think so. And when you go ahead and you go and you keep running and you keep forcing your will, it's going to come down to the trenches as well. There's no doubt in my mind, offensively speaking, that Garrett Green's going to start. We got to make sure you got to protect him a bit of his ankle. I don't know how far along he is. I don't know if he's 80, 90, 100. But regardless, I know this: when you come back from a sprained ankle, it is easier to sprain your ankle again. Much easier. I know because I had to go through it my sophomore season where I sprained my ankle in camp. And I dealt with it the entire season. It wasn't easy. I got through it. Don't get me wrong. I got through it, and I made it. I never missed a game. But it was tough. And I don't envy Garrett Green going ahead and having to do that. Hopefully it just gets better and it's healed. That was, 30 years ago? So maybe their treatments are a little more advanced. One thing I'm going to say, and this is going to be a little bit of a rah-rah time. I don't usually like to do rah-rahs. I like to say straight from the heart. But I'm going to say this. This is your time, Mountaineers. This is your time. Many, many people have undersold your value as a football team. Undersold your value. And this is your time, coaches included. I do believe that I think this team is working really hard to be better, really hard to get that respect. I think they believe in themselves for sure. And tonight, TCU is really going to be that time to shine. If you're the team you think you are, if Neil Brown, as he said, if you're going to be a contender, you got to show up tonight. Got to show up and you got to show out. And basically, you got to win. You need to win this game. You need to win a good game that's away from WVU, away steps. You go ahead, you win this game, you can be a contender. There's no doubt in my mind. If you can beat TCU tonight, you could be a contender. That means a competitor, okay? A competitor to the Big 12. And I'm not saying if you lose, it's not all over. It's not what I'm talking about. But this is your opportunity to go positive. Let's go positive. This is your opportunity to take a step forward. And then you, of course, have the bye week next week to heal up, to get better. Go look at the first 5 games and figure out what was good, what could be better. What do you get rid of? All that comes to time to reassess. But tonight is not reassess. Tonight is go get it. Hold back nothing. Nothing. Nada. This is your time. Every single one of you, offensively, defensively, special teams. I want to see Oliver Straw. I want to see you hit those punts inside the 10, maybe inside the 5. You've done it before. You did it against Pitt, right? Great job. And you've been out there. Now you're going against your competitor. You're competing against another Australian punter and Jordan Sandy right there, right? Okay, so this is your opportunity for bragging rights. And also, let's go offense, 11 guys. We need the receivers. Receivers, you have to be involved. You have to catch the balls that the quarterback throws. You have to be able to get off of man press. You have to. If I was going to be going against you, I would say, you know what, until you can beat man press, that's what I'm going to do. Now, TCU is not going to do that because they will go man, but they're going to do a lot of dropping 8 in zones. But the difference between TCU and a lot of teams are when that guy actually, opponent goes into that zone, when they're in zone coverage, all right, they go on them like glue. Okay, they treat them like man coverage once you enter that TCU defender's zone. And that's why I think that they're good. But they are giving up 292 yards in the air. All right, they're only giving up 85, right, on the run, but 292 in the air. So, again, that could be a weakness. And what they're going to do is they're going to say, listen, we don't want C.J. Donaldson. We don't want Garrett Green or Nico Merkel, whoever the quarterback is. We don't want you guys to go ahead and run beat us. So I think, even though Steven Johnson says that they're not going to do much difference, I think they're really going to try to focus on the run and then go ahead and say, listen, you're going to have to beat us in the passing game. I think that's because there's a strength. Take away the strength of the offense, the offensive line, and the rushing game with C.J. Donaldson, Jalen Anderson, and so on. And so if you go ahead and you do that, well, then you reduce it to one half of power by the offense. So I think they're going to attack that way. Offensive line, you gotta win the battles. And there's got to be some RPO going on. I think there's got to be a lot of RPO. And I'm talking both ways now. You see times, I showed you on film yesterday, you see times when TCU makes that box really, really light, even in third down situations, because the offense went ahead and spread out that offense. Well, they like quarterback draw here at WVU. They like that. And if they're going to go ahead and reduce that box to 4 with an extra 5th guy 12 yards back as a safety, he's not going to be able to get there in 3 or 4 yards. So it's a 4 or 5 yard kick. RPO is huge. RPO is everything. Flip it to the other side, man. Defensively, I've said it before. You got to compete. You got to compete against your receivers. C.J. Richardson, leading receiver, tied with Jared Wiley, the tight end. Both at 14 receptions. Wiley's got the most touchdowns. You have to go ahead. There are, 15, 16 guys with 2 or more receptions. There are 5 guys, double digits or close to it. One guy has 9 receptions. So you got some receivers, and you got Chandler Morris. Again, now Chandler Morris, remember, he is the second leading rusher for TCU. Second leading rusher. So you're going to have to go ahead and watch him in the run and commit a guy to him, especially in the read zone. And that is all. You see Johnny Campbell, you say statement game. Yeah, I see it, man. Statement game. Very good. Yeah, Timothy Estep, let's go. Oh, excellent. All right. And I think you do that, and you got to win on special teams, man. So it is a statement game. You got to get going. You got to get moving, and you should be all right if you stick together as a team. No turnovers. Keep those discipline penalties, the lack of them, down. No penalties. Good field position. You're on different territory. You're on different turf now. It's a different ball game than being at 3 straight home games, right? This is your opportunity. Different time here. So, again, you got to go ahead and take advantage of that. It's got to be a well-played game for the Mountaineers on offense, defense, special teams. You can't have the turnovers. That's very obvious, all right? You have to be able to run against numbers against you. You have to be able to run against numbers against you, and you've proven you can thus far. Okay, Texas Tech and Pitt, I'm saying it, you can, and you've had some sneaky, not sneaky, but well-attacked let's say, cohesion on your running game. I'm very impressed with the running game. Keep your shifts going. Keep your motions going. Let's get these quarterbacks rolling out, not just all drop back passes. Let's target the tight end, Cole Taylor. God, you got to do at least 8 times, target him, or the receivers if someone's kicking in, right? If someone, Carter, target him, right? Catch the ball. Hudson Clement, let's go, right? We got all these guys. Cortez Bram, right? Well, Jeremiah Aaron, where are you, man? Let's go, guys. Let's get it going, and let's produce results, because that's why you're here, to produce results. You're 3-1. You could be 4-1 heading into a break against Houston. You actually have your destiny's in your control. It's in your control. It's in your hands. In your hands, man, to go ahead and go and get that. Go and get that victory. It's right there for you. What you all have to do is you all have to play together, defensively, offensively, special teams, and a disciplined game. Extra bucket, good hands, good technique, good fundamentals. That's what it takes to win on the road in the Big 12, especially against a pretty good team coached by a guy named Sonny Dykes, who I have a lot of respect for in the world of football. And with that being said, I just really just wanted to get you there with Steven Johnson, have him break down that TCU team for you, do an excerpt so that you wouldn't have to watch the whole show from Thursday to go ahead and do that. And I'll tell you what, man, it's all good. It's all good. Again, last time, John Cantwell, statement game. That's right, an offensive tackle there for the Mountaineers, former. He's looking a little older right now. There you go. Very good. All right, everybody. Listen, let's go Mountaineers. Play together, play discipline, play strong, and go win the game. Just keep winning. Let's go Mountaineers. Have a great day. I'll be tweeting at Wolfley64. I'll be tweeting if you care to join me in the conversation. Let's go, baby. Yeah.